Welcome back, this is Cerealsnax, and today I'm going to talk about two things in Borderlands 2, and you can tell I'm kind of on a Borderlands 2 kick lately. I kind of have game ADD in a sense, and I'll be back to Guild Wars 2, at some point soon. Of course, all these great games are coming out, so I want to talk about them while it's still fresh. So expect to see lots of variety, and but also some games I'll go into more depth than others, probably. So anyway, I wanted to talk about Guild Wars 2. There's two DLCs out, and I picked up both of them just to kind of check them out. The first one is this Mechromancer character, and I'm gonna start her. I've got a number of characters here. Let's just continue her really quick. Her name is Gaige, and it's interesting. I've gotten to the part 2. So the way Borderlands 2 works is that there are two parts to the game. So you've got your first part, which is more of a introductory normal mode, I guess you could say. And then part 2 is more of a, they call it the true Vault Hunter mode, and the enemies, you have different skills. They actually, a lot of them will have corrosive attacks or electricity attacks or fire attacks. They'll be a lot more specialized in the way that they fight you. Plus, they are a lot tougher, and I'm finding that even though they are around my level, they are much more difficult than the first time around, especially for my Zero character, who's the one that I've made it to that part 2 already. So that's kind of what that's all about. Right now I'm playing Gaige, and I'm kind of worried about Gaige, this DLC character, for part 2 in a sense, because she relies on her robot that she calls out, and I'll show that to you in a second here. I'm gonna run up this hill, but she has a robot called Death Trap that you use, and my fears for part 2 is that you won't be able to pull the robot out enough. Because I find that when I don't have the robot out, I'm kind of just backing off and not doing anything, which really slows down your progress. It's kind of like Axton in a sense with the turret, in that when you have the turret out, you're great. But when you don't have the turret out, sometimes you suffer a little bit more. So there's Death Trap flying out there, and I'm actually playing this live. I don't always play live when I'm recording, so you will have me maybe not doing as well as I normally would. So that's my excuse. But regardless, you can see my Death Trap character is actually fighting up above while I'm down here, and as you can see, I'm not doing great. There we go, scored a critical on that one. This is early on in the playthrough with Gaige, but so far my first impressions of her are that without Death Trap out, you are pretty weak. The other thing that's come out is this new Pirate DLC, and I'll show you that in a second. I'm just kind of running around with Gaige for now. Let's just take a look real quick at her skill set, just so you get an idea of what she is all about. So you can see she's a teenage girl. She's got a pretty crazy background. She's real smart, makes this little robot. She's very reminiscent of Tiny Tina, who's a character you encounter later in the game, who's also kind of an insane young genius who deals with bombs instead of robots like Gaige does. So let's look at her skill set. She's got 3 trees right here. She's got the Best Friends Forever tree, Little Big Trouble tree, and Ordered Chaos tree. And right now, it's tough. The first few skills that they give you are not great. You can see I've got Cooking Up Trouble, which allows you to regenerate health when you have a full magazine, 0.8% of your health per second, which isn't great. So, but at 5 of 5, it might be pretty decent. I'd like to look at the last thing that you gain, because they claim that if they raise the level cap in this game, you'll actually be able to get 2 trees out of it. But right now, you can only get all the way to the end of 1 tree. This one is more about shielding yourself, so it grants a copy of your shield to Death Trap, so it shields the Death Trap and yourself. But a lot of these skills in this Best Friends Forever is really a strengthening of both characters in terms of shields and health. So I would kind of call that like a tankish build. Little Big Trouble is more of a kind of glass cannon build, where you just make everything that you do kind of more effective, so slag damage, shock damage, all those kinds of damages will be stronger and more powerful in that sense. And then of course you've got Ordered Chaos, which is more of a, it's this build built off this anarchy idea, right? And when you get the anarchy to the full amount, you can have this melee override skill, which is very interesting to me, and I'm not sure, I haven't delved too much into this tree, and I'm not sure whether it'll be any good, but this may be a tree that is good for part 2, just because it grants you bonuses to health regeneration, shield regeneration, and that sort of thing. So in a way, this is kind of a survival tree, I guess you could call it. If you've got your tank tree, which is more shields, your damage tree, DPS tree, and then you've got your more kind of survival, all-around survival tree. So we will see. Let's see. So there's that, and of course she can use guns, just like all the guns, just like everybody else. And the nice part about Deathtrap is that what I'm finding I'd like to do is only use him when I'm in a sticky situation, because you get such a limited use with him that the only time that it's really effective is when you're in that kind of situation. You can see how cool he looks. He's about to wear off and disappear, but there he goes. Whoop. Deathtrap. And the cooldown is pretty significant. You can see the cooldown on the left there. It takes a lot of time, actually. So it's a little frustrating in that sense. And of course she gets all the skins and their upgrades and colors that everybody else gets. I have the basic head so far, but at some point maybe I'll show off those. So all around a pretty nice DLC. I'm not sure if she's really worth $10. But again, that's all in the eye of the beholder probably, and what you're looking for as a character. She is definitely a pet class character, which is very reminiscent of Mordecai in Borderlands 1 with the Bloodwing pet. She has the Deathtrap. So if you like that type of playstyle, then she's pretty good for that. You could even pair her up with a sniper rifle, and while Deathtrap is going to work, snipe everybody. So there she is. So I'm going to be right back, and I will show you the new DLC, the Captain Scarlett and her booty. So I'll be right back. So I want to talk a little bit about this DLC that just came out for Borderlands 2, and it is called Captain Scarlett and her pirate booty, and it's basically a new zone called the Oasis. Well, it's called the Oasis, and there's a little town that's basically called Oasis. And basically what this is there's treasure that you're trying to go after, and it's got a very strong pirate theme to it. Now, I've talked a little bit before about DLCs and things that you purchase in games that maybe aren't as worth as much money, and there's a lot of people out there who will immediately say, you know, that this is content that should have been released when the game was released and not be available as part of a DLC. Now, I purchased a season pass, which is a $30 season pass, and there's supposed to be 4 DLCs coming out for it. So some people argue that you're basically paying, you know, you paid $30 on top of the $60. You're paying $90 for this game, or you should have just paid $60 to begin with and get all this DLC content. My argument against that is really as follows. You know, the game itself was worth $60. Now, I didn't spend $60. I got a 4-pack with people that I found online that were able to then share it, and we were able to basically get it for $45 a piece, which is, you know, $15 off. So you could say that $15 off, you know, part of that goes towards this DLC. And the other thing is the Gaige character, which actually costs everybody $5 or $10, was free for those people that pre-ordered. So, you know, the Gaige character may not be worth the $10 necessarily, because that's actually more expensive than the DLCs. If you count all 4 DLCs, you're basically paying $7.50, which, in my opinion, is more than worth it. Now, Borderlands 2 so far has captured my attention quite a bit. Borderlands 1, you know, it didn't capture my you know, it wasn't as exciting to me for some reason or another, and it just felt kind of like a, I don't know, I guess a bastardization of Fallout, and I just never really got into it as much as I'm getting into Borderlands 2. But now I'm probably going to go back and revisit that, because Borderlands 2 has really reignited my interest in the whole series. And you can bet there's going to be a Borderlands 3 after the sales that Borderlands 2 has seen so far. So I'm glad about that. I'm glad that they're doing so well. Gearbox is a great company. Did some great games in the past, some great World War II first-person shooters and that I loved. So, regardless, let's talk about the DLC. You know, not necessarily the monetary thing of it. Now, if you don't think it's worth it, don't buy it. I personally really am enjoying this game, so it's worth it to me for $7.50 basically per expansion. And I'll reserve my judgment. I don't know how long this expansion is. You can see here I'm actually just fighting through. There's actually a little minor boss character here named No Beard. So you can see the pirate theme. And really, yeah, you could argue that all these guys are is reskinned psychos and maniacs and all that from the other part of the game. However, they did do all new voice recordings for this, so everybody's got kind of pirate talk that they're talking. You can't really go wrong with pirates. And the other thing that they did is they added a bunch of new kind of skins and graphics and all that. So the other thing that it seems like they've also added is weapons as well. There's a new sort of currency, I believe, because there's actually an area that you go into and you can't buy anything until you beat this enemy, this boss enemy. So you can see this Shade guy is talking about. Now Shade, of course, is a reference to Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, if you've ever seen that movie or read that book. And of course, Captain Scarlett reminds me a little bit of the love interest of Guybrush Threepwood from Monkey Island, although I'm not certain that that's the only reference she's taking from. However, there's a lot of cool things in this DLC that I saw in only the first few minutes of playing. Of course, you know, the one is the pirate aspects of it. The quests are very odd. This whole little city, this oasis city, is set in an area where it looks like the oceans have actually receded, so it's just dirt, and there's these sandworms. So there's references to Dune, there's references to Star Wars and the vehicles that you get, and I'll show you that here in a second, the skiff vehicle that you have. And of course, I'm looking through all my skins here. I like the Malawan skin. That's just kind of an aside. I'm looking forward to getting some of the pirate skins because that's going to be cool. And call me crazy, but one of my favorite things about games like this and RPGs in general is making my character look a certain way. I've always liked that in MMOs. I've always liked that in kind of any game that I've played. And maybe that's just like playing dress up with dolls, but whatever. I like it. So regardless, let me show you just a few more things. Let me show you the skiff real quick. So naturally, the skiff is the vehicle in this particular DLC, and it's very reminiscent of the Star Wars skiffs in Return of the Jedi, you know. And actually, I like to color it kind of like those skiffs too. You can see I've already gotten a few skins for it. One of the coolest ones is Umbra Orange because it gives it kind of that brownish look that is from Star Wars. So I don't know. But you can get all kinds of different skins for this. And actually, I looted a number of them that were purple, and there's all kinds that you can get. I like that as well. And again, it's a form of dress up, I guess. But I just love collecting the skins for the vehicles as well. It's just something that for some reason is, I guess, ingrained in my mind. It's something fun to do. And I guess I'll say that as an aside, not necessarily related to this DLC, but in Borderlands 2 in general, feels to me like a real evolution of first-person shooters. You know, of course, you think back to Doom 2, and it had co-op, and I used to dial the modem of my friend, and we used to play Doom 2 together, co-op, and it was difficult even, you know, 2 people playing together, Doom 2. But the thing I liked about it was that it just felt so revolutionary, this first-person shooter kind of thing. And this has taken it a step further. You can customize your characters. Like what they did, and it was really smart, and of course it's been done before, but I think Borderlands 2 does it better than most games, is that they've integrated first-person shooter with RPG elements and vehicles and quests in a way that just really feels fresh and new. So it's almost like they took a bunch of old concepts, mashed them all together, and put a new fresh coat of paint on it. And so for me, it's just captured my attention. So regardless, you can see this skiff. I'm kind of jumping all over it here, but let's drive it around. You can see I'm actually trying to just fight these people. There's 3 different types of skiffs. There's of course the harpoon skiff. There's like a rocket launcher skiff, and then there's like the regular machine gun blade thingy kind of skiff, and I just like to drive around on them basically. So here I'm just kind of driving around in this skiff. This is like the sand area with the sandworms. I just drove over one of them. And there's what else I like about this is that the ground is basically made to look like it was a ocean bed at one point in time. So that's really cool from an artistic perspective. In many ways, it does remind me of Guild Wars 2, the piratey aspect to it, which is real prevalent in Guild Wars 2 as well. You can see the ship's kind of mired here. So I'm going to run through this village and just show you what some of the graphics look like. Let's see here. I got a new skin real quick. Let's see, Rocket Hovercraft. You got the Arctic Sea is the purple one that I looted, and Green Dragon's a different type. So let's see, Arctic Sea, sure, why not? Deploy it, teleport to it. Yeah, so there's my little Arctic Sea barge thing. Pretty cool. So I've barely just scratched the surface of this DLC, and so far it seems like it's going to be very worthwhile for the $7.50 that you really consider it's worth. And let me just show you some of the features over here. You can see this is like an old picnic area that was overlooking the ocean. And if I scan it, you can see there's some kind of like lighthouse type thing in the distance there. Looking forward to exploring that. And there's the town of Oasis over there. Kind of nice to have a sniper rifle to kind of do this. This is a building that had ghost pirates in it. They're actually like skeletons. And then of course you see the palm trees and the boats just kind of mired on the ground. And there's the seabed basically down there. So this, of course, used to be an area that was overlooking an ocean. So pretty impressive. It's almost like Pandora used to be this really amazing place to live, and is just kind of fallen on bad times, basically. So, pretty impressive stuff. So, just wanted to show you guys those 2 DLCs, and I hope you enjoyed. I just wanted to keep following up on Borderlands 2 news and what's going on with it. I'm going to get back to other games as well, but Borderlands is always fun and interesting, and hope you enjoyed. So, with that said, I'm going to leave you here. Thanks for joining me, and hope you check back again soon.